when I was at the age of 3, 4 years old, it's just chaos all the time because we're bouncing around and adults are picking us up and dropping us off, and we don't know where we're gonna be that night, and just this craziness. And I remember there was a moment of, like, silence and peace, and I heard this voice, and it said,
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pickle Me This. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and like so you'll be notified when new episodes drop every Saturday morning. You definitely don't want to miss them. Also, your support helps other pickleball enthusiasts find us too. Everyone has a story. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pickle Me This, and I'm your host, Deirdre. And today I'm sitting down with Thomas from Train Pickleball. If you follow him on social media, you know him as a coach who's all about building confidence and helping players believe in themselves. But what you might not know is the incredible journey that brought him to pickleball in the first place. He grew up in the foster care system where sports became his lifeline. He went on to play and coach ultimate frisbee at the highest level and ran his own fitness business. But then everything fell apart. He moved across the country and hit rock bottom. And that's when he picked up a paddle, not looking for a new sport necessarily, but just trying to survive one day at a time. It ended up giving him purpose, people, and a way to help others rise through their own struggles. So welcome.
"Thank you. Thank you for having me."
So excited to have you here. I like to kick it off always like the same kind of way. How did you first discover pickleball? Like what was going on in your life when you started playing?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I had moved across the country, basically from Missouri to Redding, California. And what I had been waiting on was somebody to have a room available to rent. And so I
Hmm.
ended up talking to this gentleman who had a room. And so I was making my way over to Redding, and just kind of a side story there. My car blew an engine about 8 hours out from Reading, so I actually had to rent a car and pack everything into that car and finish the ride. And then, um, there I was living in a new room. I didn't have any furniture, so I was sleeping on the floor. Basically, that year was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. Like, the fitness business was done, the ultimate frisbee was done, and up to that point, I was actually living in my car. I was homeless. So I'm trying to figure out, what I need to do. And so I'm there in Reading, and we live by a park called Enterprise Park. And if you know anything about me, I drink copious amounts of coffee. It's like my thing. And so I always had this huge mug of coffee, and decided to go for a walk. And there was, I thought tennis. So I walked all the way over
Mm.
there. It was not tennis. Yeah, it was pickleball. And, um, the biggest thing I noticed on those people's faces, and I hadn't really experienced this in a long time, and that was they were all laughing.
Hmm.
They were all smiling. They were all having fun. And that was probably the thing that kept me there. Instead of realizing it wasn't tennis, I decided to stick around a little bit and watch them play.
Very cool. So did you hop in that day and play?
So I came from the fitness industry. I was in there for uh, about 12, 13 years, about the same amount of time that I was in Ultimate Frisbee. And when I retired from Ultimate Frisbee and I closed down my fitness business and I walked away from those things, I was not looking for another sport. I had
Mm.
competed at the highest level. And one of the things that Ultimate Frisbee ultimately did, one of the big reasons why I walked away, besides injuries, was it was all about winning. It's just, if you didn't win, you heard about it. And then if you did win, then you're expected to keep winning, right? And it was just taking a lot of the fun out of it. And so there were times I just go play Ultimate Frisbee somewhere else just because I wanted to remember how fun it was to play with people. But when I walked away from it, I was done with all of it. I was done, right? And so when I was looking at pickleball, I'm like, this looks fun, but I'm not interested. Like, all I could think about was competition and all the people, how serious it was, and to win, and actually how much time and effort I had put and sacrificed in that sport to basically when I left, it was like nobody remembers you. And so it just so many bad things that were happening, so many bad tastes in my mouth. I was like, I'm not looking for a new sport. I'm not looking for the next thing. So I'm standing there and I'm watching, and they're older ladies, and I think I have a soft spot in my heart for older ladies, and he just kept talking to me and kept talking to me and say, "Hey, come play." And I was just trying to be really nice and say, "No, I just want to watch. I just want to see. I really just watching the smiles on your faces. I not interested really in the game." But I stood there too long, and I was standing there, and there were 3 people on this court, and they were hitting the ball around, and they were saying really loudly to themselves, "If somebody doesn't join us, we're gonna have to go home." And I'm just in my head, and I'm like, "Oh, no."
Pressure, the pressure. They needed a 4th.
They did. They needed a floor. So I put my coffee down and I grabbed a paddle, and I just said to myself when I did that, I grabbed the paddle and I said, "If this ever doesn't become fun, I will put this paddle down." And I'm totally expecting the first game to not be fun, to grab my, coffee and to keep on going.
Mhm.
And, I got, like, the 5-minute, "This is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is how you play. You're not going to get it right away, but we'll walk you through it." And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I took the paddle and they served the ball and we played. All I did was hit the ball hard, right? Just hit it. We won 11-1.
Heck
And
yeah.
I was like, they were like, well, we should play again. And I'm like, well, heck yeah, we won 11-1. Why wouldn't I? So I played again. And next thing I know, 2 hours later, I'm like, where's this been my whole life? And
Mhm.
I went from playing. So I only knew they had a morning session, so I played the morning session, which was like 3 or 4 hours, and then somebody said, "Oh, by the way, we have an evening session," a couple weeks later. Next thing I know, I'm playing the evening session. So I was playing like 7 to 9 hours a day,
Wow.
4 to 5 days a week around my so I started volunteering as well there. So around my volunteering time, I was on the pickleball court just playing and having the time of my life.
I love so many things about that story. First, I love that they were persistent, right? Well, before that, I like that you were drawn into the aspect that you could see joy in their faces, right? And you saw them really having fun. So that intrigued you. I love that they persisted. And I love that they spoke up really loud, saying, if we don't get another person, we're going to have to leave. And I also really like that you just got hooked right away because that doesn't necessarily happen to a lot of people. You know, they'll play the first time. Like even me, like I played the first time and I'm like, it's like this is fun, but it didn't like it wasn't the wow factor. That happened a few weeks after that. But amazing. Amazing story. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, So what was it about it, do you think, that kept you there for those few hours that first time?
We can really, I think for me, I could really go deep in a lot of these, but
Yeah.
I'll just put it this way. Like, I grew up in the foster care system. Me and my siblings were in the foster care system when I was 3,
Oh
and I was
wow.
the second oldest. So then my sister was 2, and my brother was a newborn, and we went into the foster care system, and it was a horrible situation. My mom went to prison. My dad took off, and like here we are, um, in Texas in the foster care system, and no other Native Americans and no tribe there. Here we are, and like all of these adults that we've never seen before. And, you know, um, I had to find an outlet, had to find something, and it was sports.
Mhm.
Sports is probably what saved my life so many times
Mm.
in my journey, especially growing up in that system. And, we were fortunate enough at some point later to get a longer term foster care, foster home. And the parents that we had, they were Caucasian, and they did the best they could. They had no idea what they were walking into. And, I can look at it now. There was a long time I spent being angry with them, but they didn't know. Like, they didn't know how traumatized we were, and they didn't know that we dealt with the death of one of our siblings, and that's how we got there, and we were still trying to process all of this and figure out how we're supposed to make it every day. So, it's just nothing but self-preservation mechanisms and just trying to figure out how to just get up the next day and
Mhm.
make it. And when I found sport, it was a great outlet for me to really get out a lot of things that I needed to, and it put me in a place where I was on a team, so I had to work with other individuals and had to learn those social aspects of it and to learn to play as a team, which I don't know that I was always the best at during that period of time. But it got me out of the house, and it got me and one of the other things I used to do when sports season wasn't going is I would run. Now, I wouldn't run now, but I would run for miles and for hours at a time then. But this really got me going a lot of times to a lot of dark
Yeah.
spaces, a
Were
lot
you
of
still young then, Thomas?
yeah, well, so yes. So, as soon as I was able to play, like, baseball,
Mm.
I was playing, and then eventually I realized there were sports all year round, so I was trying to play all the sports, and then I would say basketball was the one I realized really quick that I did not like, so that one went out the door, and I was off-season football or something. So, I was really good at football and baseball and things, but it's just because I think that was my outlet,
Mhm.
and then I got into the adult world and, um, I had I don't know how to say this any differently, but, like, one week I had a gun to my head, and a couple weeks later, I was playing my first game of Ultimate Frisbee, and, like, again, it was sports because I found a community, they took me in, and I started playing, and I probably should have stayed there, but somebody said, "You need to go play for the men's team." And so I went and tried out for the men's team, and there's a whole story there, but I made it,
Mhm.
and I started competing, and then I started competing all over, and even though I love the competition, um, there was it turned out like we're just competing, we're having fun to now we gotta win.
Right? All the pressure of competitive sports. That's what happens, right? It starts fun. Well, first off, gosh, I'm so sorry to hear about your early life. That must have been so tough. And did were your siblings and all of you adopted at the same time, like together as a family?
So, being, Native Americans, you can't adopt us, so we were, just foster children, through that
Interesting.
process, and then when we got to I don't know, we got into our teens, it really started coming out in all of us to some degree. So my little brother had to be removed, my big brother had to be removed, and my little sister eventually found her way out of it. So I was like the last one that was in the
Mhm.
house on the way through, and then I think at that point, my foster parents were like, "It's your time, you gotta go." And I aged out, and
Mhm.
next, like, couple months later, I was out in the real world, right? And
Mhm.
and nobody told me some things, and, probably admittedly, I didn't listen to some things, that I needed to know going out into the world and, realizing I did have more of a safe space at the house, and now here I'm on my own.
Mhm.
And I did a few things, like, I joined the Marine Corps and, a couple years in there, and then that didn't help. Somebody who's traumatized, that didn't help. So I was out of that, and, then I tried to get into, I just started working, trying to figure, life out, and seems like I was just making one bad decision after another. If I could figure out how to make this decision worse, I found a way to do it, and I did it. But, it's interesting because when I was at the age of 3, 4 years old, it's just chaos all the time because we're bouncing around and adults are picking us up and dropping us off, and we don't know where we're gonna be that night, and just this craziness. And I remember there was a moment of, like, silence and peace, and I heard this voice, and it said, "You are destined for greatness." And I heard it and then forgot about it till years later. I was a young adult. Was out of the Marine Corps. I was out and trying to figure out life, and I would start making these decisions that were just not taking me the right direction. And for
Mhm.
some reason, I would remember this voice that said, "You are destined for greatness." And I would just slowly start making the decisions to put me back on track. And then I would get going. And then I'd go over here and I'd slowly work my way back. And then I ran across Tony Robbins, and man, I was listening to him and realizing, wait, there is a way out of this. And
Mhm.
it's led to more and more um, individuals or more of those type of leaders that really impacted my life and helped me set some really high goals.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I mean, sometimes you need a voice like that, in your own head to make you push forward, right? To have you something to aspire to. How did you get into the fitness industry? Was that through the Ultimate Frisbee as well?
Yeah, so there's the story. So I tried out for the men's team. I went to the practices and I was trying out for the men's team and we went in a tryout and I traveled with the team and went. It was like the worst ultimate frisbee game I ever played in my life. It was horrible. And we came back, and when I came back, I was working, and the position I was working under, that person made some decisions that forced them to leave.
Mhm,
A new person who came in wanted to bring their own team in, so me and a few other people were removed. So basically, I was out of a job.
mhm,
I was staying in one of the houses there, and um, I went to practice the next Saturday, and one of my buddies pulled me aside and that was kind of in charge of who was going to make the team and not. And he said, "Thomas, I just want to let you know before you find out that you're probably not going to make the team." So here I am now, going to lost my job, about to be homeless, and now I'm not going to play on this men's team. This lady um, kind of heard about my situation, so she had this little bitty apartment, like 200 square feet, and she let me come in and stay. And so I'm sitting in the dark. And my buddies called me up and they say, "Thomas, we want to bring you over for dinner." I'm like, "I am not interested. I just want to sit here in the dark and feel sorry for myself." And they go, "Hey, Travis, go get Thomas." And I'm like, "Oh, leave me alone." And so I heard Travis say in the background, "I'm on my way." And I said, "Tell Travis not to come." And they said, "No, Travis is see you in a minute." And he hung up, or she hung up. And sure enough, he's knocking on the door. I have all the lights turned out. I'm trying to hide out. He's like, "Thomas, I'm in the car. Let's go." And I tried to talk him out of it. He wouldn't listen. So I got in the car. We drove all the way over there. And I'm telling him the whole way, "I'm going to eat real fast. Just take me back home. We'll be done with this." And he just kept talking. And so we went in, we sat down, and I noticed all of my friends were there. Now the thing you got to remember is they're all seminarians. They're all in seminary. So they're all broke. Okay. So that's important to note. So I'm sitting there at the end of the table and they're all sitting there and we all sit down and we start eating and they all start laughing and they pass this envelope all the way down to me. And I take it and I'm thinking, "Oh, okay, some cash. I could pay a car payment or pay rent or something." And I opened it up and I'm like, there's a piece of paper folded up. I open it up and I look inside and it says, "Congratulations on your 5 personal training sessions. Call to set up your first one." And I'm like, what in the world is this?
mhm.
I look up and they all started laughing. They said, "We all pulled our money together and bought you these 5 sessions because we know you want to play on this team." And I was just in tears. I was like, "Are you
Mm,
kidding me?
yeah.
Are you kidding me?" So I did. I signed up. I trained with this master trainer who ended up being my mentor. After I trained with him, I was like, "How do I become a trainer? Like, you changed my life. How do I become a trainer?" And that started the journey. I ended up being one of the top 5 rookies that year on the team.
Nice.
And and I made the team, and then I went through the process of becoming a trainer, and that's how my journey started. It started about the same time that Ultimate Frisbee did, and I look at that because that was one of my very first mentors I had, and he pulled me in the office one day, and he just said to me, "Thomas, you're not a personal trainer." And I looked at him, I'm like, "That's funny, because I just went to personal trainer school
Yeah,
last
yeah.
week." And he goes, "No, no, no." He said, "You're a life changer. So go up there and change people's lives." And I said, "Okay,
Mhm.
let's, let's go make it happen." And then that's how I started. I always thought I was going to work with like the Dallas Cowboys or some high end athlete. And I ended up working with um, a bunch of injury rehab, injury prevention um, clients that were either competing high level or they were going into like D1 college or
Oh, nice. Yeah,
um, s- do
yeah.
that. Yeah. So
Did you like doing that?
I absolutely love the science of like biomechanics and how the body works and the
Mhm.
movement patterns. And, one of the ways that my mentor taught me, he said I'd have to stand at the front desk, and everybody who walked in the door from the door to the desk, I had to tell him all of the muscle deviations that were happening.
Wow.
And then once I started getting those right, he started asking me, now, what muscles are overactive and what muscles are underactive? And I had to write all those down.
Yeah.
And then when I started getting those right, he'd say, now I need you to start writing a program out on how you would train that person.
Oh,
And then I
yeah.
would start taking those programs and start going upstairs and telling this person, okay, I've been watching you for 2 weeks, and this is what I see. And this is how I would train you. And this is what you're going to see happen. And they go, where do I sign? And I go, wow. Like, so I just would, with all the certifications and different training I had in just him taking me under his wing, I really learned all this and I loved it. And what I thought I was going to do ended up being different than what I am doing. And I think that really translate a lot to pickleball, but that's what I enjoyed. And just breaking down just like the simplest little movement and going, I know what's going on.
Mhm.
And 30 minutes, they would be feeling so much better, or the thing would be corrected enough that they could see a huge difference. I had one lady, ironically, come in, said, I've been to PT, I've been da 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 da. None of it's worked. Can you help me? You're my last hope. 30 minutes, I had her fixed. She was in tears. She walked out, gave me a hug and walked out. I never saw her again.
That's
So,
great. That's really great. I mean, there's so many sports and there's so many sports injuries. My gosh, I've had sports injuries before too. You just want somebody to tell you what's going on and how to fix it. I think that's amazing. And it totally makes sense, like how you got into your night train pickleball too, like how you got to that place having loved this so much um as well. So no, I totally get that. All right, so what made you leave that and move across country?
yes, I wanted to play Ultimate Frisbee so bad. And I wanted this business to work so much that I was willing to sacrifice a lot for it. And it cost me a lot, personally and professionally, to the point where um, I kind of lost it all. And once you see the train coming off the tracks, I was doing everything I could to try to save it, and it just didn't save. And so I had to shut everything down. And Ultimate Frisbee, I had broken my ankle twice in the same year.
Wow.
And that's just one of like multiple injuries, broken fingers, concussions, like just tons of crazy injuries. But I broke my ankle at the very beginning of the season, and then the doctor released me reluctantly on the week that I technically could be released, and we made regionals, and I went and played regionals, and in the first game I broke my ankle again,
Oh, no.
and so I was done. But I was not getting enough time to recover
Mhm, mhm,
between seasons, and I just realized, and I had already played like 2 or 3 years past my prime, if you will.
mhm.
It's just like, I need to walk away.
Yeah,
I should have stopped a couple years before, but I didn't, and I ended up in this position, um,
yeah.
and so I was living out of my car, and, my cousin, who is biological cousin, who reached out to me the year before, I asked her if she wanted a roommate, and she said yes.
So then you move to California, you meet the woman playing pickleball, and you start playing. I think you said you immediately started going back and playing pretty often. What did finding that community mean to you? How did it change your life?
I went there knowing that I was going to volunteer. Like,
Okay.
I went there knowing, like, I wanted to be part of this church community. I wanted to be part of their culture because I wanted to go through this healing
Mm,
and just kind of find some peace, right? Just
mhm,
kind of figure out who I am. And while I was there, I was volunteering at the local mission and at the church, any of the things that they had. Like, I was just volunteering anywhere I could.
mhm,
In the process of doing that, I found, the pickleball. So I was in this, like, place of, like, I'm giving. So the first thing I thought of is, like, as I get in pickleball, what is it that I have to give? to this community. And man, they would not let me. They were like,
Really?
what can we do, for you? And I'm like, well, I just want to play. Well, here's the days we're here. And they would all let me know when they were going to be there. So I knew who I wanted to play with. And I was doing really well. These older ladies, they would come to me and say, Thomas, I haven't won yet. I want to win before I leave. Will you play with me? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we'd get in there and we'd win and they'd give me a hug and they'd take off. And kind of that was my thing, right? I would just go in and I was getting better and they were playing with me. They didn't want to play against me. They wanted to play with me because they knew, hey, Thomas, I really want to beat that guy. Okay, let's do it. So we'd jump in and we'd beat him and they would give him the, yeah. And then come off the court. And yeah, and then I had a couple guys start training me. They knew I didn't have any money, so they were like training me for free and running me all over town and hanging out with them and stuff. There's this group that had lunch every Tuesday, and it was just all women. They were like anybody's able to come, but only us women come every Tuesday. And I said, well, maybe I should come. And they said, we'd love to have you. So every Tuesday I'd go with these ladies wherever they were eating and go sit down and have lunch with them. It was changing my life for sure.
So nice. It's so nice to be included. And something about sharing a meal with people is really bonding, you know? You said pickleball hit different than other sports. What was the moment you realized that it was becoming more than just a game?
So I met my beautiful wife on eHarmony of all places, but she was in Oregon, and so I came up for a long weekend in Oregon, stayed with her parents, and we went on our first date, if you will, after talking for like a week or two, and I started looking for the local pickleball scene up here. And during that process of visiting, we decided like, this is it. This is the person. So within 30 days, we were married.
Wow, congratulations.
So I moved up a week before we got married, and then we got married, and that was almost 8 years ago. And so I moved up here and I started um, playing. But one of the things I noticed really quick was these players didn't drill. They didn't train. They just played and were hoping to get better. And I was always giving them pieces of advice on like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And they were eating it up.
Mhm.
Finally said, well, I'm going to go drill on Tuesday and I've got this indoor court that they're letting me use. Why don't you come and drill with me? I'll take you through my drills. And if you have any friends, bring them. We'll do it. So she showed up and brought 6 of her friends. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then we're going to run drills. And they're like, we don't know how to do any of that, Thomas. Just teach us how to play.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, okay, we'll do that today, but we're going to drill next time. And they go, oh, by the way, we're not going to let you do it for free. Here's some money. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is totally unexpected. So then I went to the next day. It was Thursday. I said, we're going to do this again on Tuesday. I said, we're going to do this again on Thursday. If you know anybody, bring some friends. They brought 9 more people. I had 15 people. And I'm like, this whole time I'm going on job interviews, I'm doing things. And I finally was like, this is
Maybe this
insane.
is it. Yeah, maybe this is it.
Yeah. And I taught them and then they all paid me. And I'm sitting here with all this cash going, is happening? And this happened for like 2 weeks. And I went and told the lady that was allowing me to use her court. She goes, well, we didn't agree to that. And I'm like, well, here's the money. She goes, no, keep the money, but you can't do that here anymore. But this other lady found out that I was doing this. She goes, we got 3 courts. We need somebody teaching. You get over here and teach.
Perfect.
And I was like, oh, I guess I better do something. So I started organizing it and started trying to figure out how to get this all set up. And so I'm
Mhm.
teaching clinics a day. This is
Mhm.
how it started becoming real. Like anywhere they would let me teach. So I taught over 200 clinics in the first year. And I taught my first clinic 9 months after I played my first game.
Wow. That's amazing. You're just starting and you were amazed that people were bringing all these people. So how did you transition from coaching to social media and Night Train Pickleball? Like, how did that progression happen?
So it was already my training business. the social media, so I just transitioned
Okay.
over to Train Pickleball.
Oh,
The story is I played my very first game here in Wilsonville, and my future father-in-law and mother-in-law watched me play. And after I got off the court, he said to me, he said, "You're like the night train of pickleball." And I'm like,
no.
"Who in the world is night train, right? Where'd you get this?" And he said, "Well, there was this defensive back in 1970s named Richard Lane, and they called him Night Train." So he's a big football fan, and he was like, "You're the night train of pickleball, man." And so when I was marketing the names, it was Night Train Pickleball and Dark Horse Pickleball. And the reason for Dark Horse is because of me coming out of the foster care system. And I was always one of the better players. Like nobody knew. They looked at this little scrawny kid and go, don't worry about him. But at the end of the day, end of the season, I was always on the all-star team. I was always a starter. I was always one of the top players. I was always a leadoff batter. I was a starting running back. So it was never the guy you thought it was going to be. So I
Right?
was like Dark Horse Pickleball or Night Train Pickleball. And everybody came back except one and said Night Train Pickleball. And I probably got serious about that over a year ago, really started finding out who I was, even though I've been teaching for almost 8 years now, really figuring out who I am as a coach, probably 18 months ago,
Mm,
really developing that into last year when I finally found like, this is what I want to do.
that
And
that makes
yeah,
sense. And based on your whole background, I like it totally makes sense on how you got there. What's your favorite coaching story? Do you have one?
like the coaching one is so I feel like I'm an underdog and I love that. Like Rocky is my guy, Rocky Balboa.
Mhm.
He's underdog, right? And I feel like when I was born into the situation that I was born in, my siblings were born in, we were born behind the eight ball. And so I'm attracted to the underdog. I had this lady come in and she coming from corporate America. She just retired. She was meek and we were working on third shot drops and she was just like not getting it. And I'm trying to work with everybody and she's not getting it. She's not getting it. And I just walked over to her and I said, "We're going to get this before you leave. I'm going to break it down so simply for you that you're going to walk away knocking down third shot drops." And she's just looking at me in total disbelief. Like, why am I here? And what am I doing? And I got to talking to her and I realized she just retired. She was in this corporate career. She was lost in it. Nobody knew who she was the day she retired. Nobody really showed up because they forgot that she even worked there. And like she'd just gotten lost in all of this, but she didn't really speak up. And I translated, "You have not won in your life in a long time. And guess what? Today you're going to win." And we worked on it and she started knocking down third shot drops and she was in tears and she just came over and gave me the biggest hug and she said, "You changed my life. You changed my life."
I love that. Yeah,
And I didn't do I
but you did. You did help her, you know? Gave her the confidence to see that.
just wanted to see her win.
Mhm. Yep. Sometimes people just need that little extra, somebody else seeing it in themselves when they don't. So that's what I feel like that's what you gave her, which is great, which is what she needed.
Yeah. Mm.
I like that story. Mm,
That's why
yeah, that's why you do it, right?
I do it.
What about personal, playing yourself? Like, what's your most funny, emotional, surprising, like, what's your favorite memory of you playing? Does your wife play with you?
My wife, she has played. She usually fills in for clinics. She's not very competitive. Um, and what I mean by that is the minute you start keeping score, she's like,
I'm outta here.
for a beginner, she's really solid. Um, Funny story on that. She would tell me when we were teaching lessons, the ball would get past her and she would kind of turn and jog to the ball. And I'm like, "So tell me about your athletic career." Cause we got married. So I'm learning after we're married some things about her. And I said, "So what is your athletic background?" "Well, I was a cheerleader and I did gymnastics. And I did this, and I did that." And I said, "So you're fast." And she goes, No, no, I'm not fast. I said, no, I think you got some speed. Like you can't do all of that and not be able to sprint. And so one day we were at a lesson and this bee started flying around and she threw her paddle and sprinted 3 courts over. And all I was yelling, I knew you could run. I knew it. I knew it. And she, of course, she was all, did the bee get off of me? And I'm like, more importantly, I know you can run.
That's
You,
right.
I
I saw
saw
it
how
now.
you were.
That is a fun story. What about pickleball pet peeves when you're playing on the court with
Hmm.
others? What are your biggest pet peeves?
I think probably not understanding the rules, like basic rules. And one of them, the one that everybody gets angry about is the out call.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm. Clearly says that you have to see color between the ball and the line. And there's so many times I know that they didn't see it and they call it out.
Mhm.
I think that has more to do with your ego and more to do with you wanting to win than it does
Yes.
if the ball was actually out or not. It's just an easy call to make to change momentum or to get the outcome that you think you want to get. Foot faults, so many foot faults happen all the time. Being a coach maybe gives me advantage, but I see it all the time. The downside is if I'm the opponent, I can't make the call. I can bring it to your attention, but you're the team has to make that call. So there's so many times people get away with foot faults. I think you shouldn't be lobbing, somebody's grandma that has little mobility. Like you just shouldn't be doing it.
That is good,
And if
fair.
you're gonna
Yes.
win, go play against some people who are going to challenge you and win and earn it.
Mhm.
Don't be lobbing Cheryl, somebody's grandma in her 80s who can barely move and is just there you
Right.
know, to get some exercise. Um, yeah,
That and,
don't
like,
don't do
dropping it in the kitchen, like, short when somebody older is back and they don't have very good mobility, I feel the same way. It's either lobbing it behind them or dropping it short. I'm like, "Oh, come on, we're out here for
so
fun."
I have real quick, I have a story about that. My first game I ever lost was against a 77 and an 82-year-old man, and they shuffled. They didn't run, they didn't walk, they shuffled. So they didn't move very well at all, and I'm thinking in my head, "I got them."
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
there and they gotta run and get it, they'll never get it. They were so good with the placement of their shots that I was running the whole time. So, what I will say about that is a lot of times the people who are doing that are hitting shots that are not effective. So then they can get the ball dropped nice and easy on them. But if they
Yep.
would hit the shot that allowed them time to work their way up.
Yes, that's very fair. That's a good point. You know what I'm working on right now myself? I find myself sometimes hitting the ball directly to the person at the kitchen line, and I'm like, "What am I doing?" I don't know. I'm kinda, like, drawn unconsciously to that person at the net, and then when I give the ball right to 'em, I'm like,
So
"Stop hitting to the person right there."
if I could give you a couple coaching,
Yes,
are you down? Okay.
down.
So number 1, it all starts with your warm up, okay? So what do we all like to do when we go warm up? We get in front of the person and then we hit little dinks set back and forth. Now, the first thing I'm gonna say is if you don't hit dinks in a game, why would you warm up dinks?
Mhm, mhm.
But this is what we do. We get up there, we hit dinks. When you're hitting your dinks to the player across the way, hit it to a spot on the court.
Mm,
Don't hit it to the
to
person.
them.
So even though I don't want that person running left or right yet because they're not warm, I'm going to pick spots in front of their left foot, their right foot, closer to the net. I'm going to keep trying to hit those spots. And I may even go after their left foot 10 times, then their right foot 10 times. It gives me spots on the court to aim for. Therefore, I start training myself to start thinking about spots on the court instead of to the person. Okay. Number 2, one of the reasons why you hit to somebody is because you're hitting to like a 3D or a tall object on the court. When you use cones, tall cones on the court, you're basically hammering that home. I usually use the pancake, the flat colored
Mm.
or the very low cone. So you have to see the surface of the court to aim. And that starts teaching you to aim for spots on the court instead of at an
I like
object.
both of those. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so those will start retraining how you approach. So then you start looking at the open spots. And so then I always look at there's two people here, so open spot, open spot, open spot. And I always try to just hit those spots on the
Mhm.
court all the time, and it's up to them to get the ball back.
I love it. A few wrap up questions. How
Okay.
has building this coaching community that you've now created, how has it changed your life beyond the courts and just playing?
I learned, and you think I would have learned this years ago, but it really hit me when I started doing this is how many people are looking to me for that information. In this case, teaching pickleball. I have this influence
You do.
in people's lives. And I've realized, you know, that I need to steward that correctly. 'Cause one of the things that I want to do is to positively impact people through the sport of pickleball, which means I have to prepare myself and I have to work on myself and I have to continue to learn myself that so I can still continue to give at the highest level I can uh, to these students every time they step on the court. And because I learned something about myself in this process, I want them to have learned something about themselves before they walk off the court. Because I know in the end of the day, it isn't about pickleball, it is about life. And
Yes.
pickleball is, even though it's fun and it's a place, it's also a place where people get the angriest, people get um they cry, people like the things that are good will come out in
Hmm.
sports, but the things that are not so good will also come out in
It's
sports.
true.
And so I want to meet players where they are, and then I want to help them up level themselves while they're on the court. And of course, that also, the benefit of that is your game gets up leveled,
Hmm.
but I want you up leveled. I want you to go out and be this better person that's going to impact those around you. And, through that little ripple, we're just changing the world.
Yeah. Who in the pickleball community has had the biggest impact on you?
So I remember when I first started coaching and I was trying to make a name for myself and I wasn't doing everything right at all, but I was just trying to get out there and just do stuff and online and shooting videos on YouTube and you got to put up with all the haters. And I'm just like, am I doing it right? And I remember playing in my first year at the Las Vegas PPA Championships. And I went there and I competed. And then we're watching all the pros, right? And I was walking along and I saw Callie Joe Smith walking towards me. I'm like, hey, I've been watching a lot of Callie's videos. I'm gonna introduce myself, right? So I was walking up. She made eye contact with me, didn't change demeanor. She just keeps walking. And I walk up to her and I said, hey, my name is, and she goes, I know who you are. And I go, she goes, yeah, I've seen some of your videos. She goes, they're all right. And then I said, well, this is my beautiful wife, Christy. And she just talked to us like just normal people. And she asked me how long you've been coaching and how long you've been playing and, just keep at it. And I'm like, did I just make it? Like, no, I'm kidding. But, uh,
It's kind of cool that she knew who you were, though. Heck yeah.
yeah, the fact that she knew who I was amazing. And then I think, probably the person who made the biggest impact, I was getting certified and, I had, and I don't know what the motivation was behind this, but this guy, he was certifying me, and he pulls me aside after the lesson and he takes me into the back room and sits me down and starts talking to me and he starts telling me how pickleball works. And I go, okay. And one of the things he said to me was, Thomas, he goes, and you need to stay in your own lane. And I was like, oh, okay. And I left. And a year or so later, I was kind of working through things and I realized that was the worst advice ever.
What does that mean?
I mean, it's like, I'm not staying in my lane. The whole world needs this. The whole world needs Thomas. So, no, I'm going to put this out there, and who needs to hear it needs to hear it, and
So he
whoever
didn't
doesn't need
want
to
you
hear it,
to.
obviously they'll tell me. but
Oh,
but that was like it was like a, oh yeah,
mm.
I'm going to show you.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you need people to tell you no to make you wanna do it more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, final question. Um, for someone listening who has been going through their own dark season, what would you want them to know?
I think this is what I would say, and I believe this to my very being. Like, I would say, the world needs you. Where you are today, regardless of what you think you've done or what you've done, right now, the world needs you and they need who you are. And more importantly, when you get through this other side of this darkness and you become this whole other person, the world is going to need that person even more. You have no idea whose life you're impacting. You have no idea what good ripples you have made in this world, even to this point. You're going to change the world because the world needs people like you, even though right now you may not know where you fit in.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. It goes back to your story as a 3-year-old, right? And your quietness. That's very profound. Very good advice. Really good advice. I think people don't realize sometimes they can't see the future, so they're just, stuck. And like you said, people need you. They need you here for sure.
Like, I think they get stuck in, I mean, selfishly, we get stuck in our feelings. We get stuck
Hmm.
in what's happening right in that moment. And we forget, I had this guy tell me one time, he says, Thomas, you're so focused on tomorrow and yesterday, you're just screwing up today. And then when tomorrow comes, you're thinking about tomorrow and what you're going to do better, and then thinking about what you did yesterday that you screwed
Mm,
up. And it was really a wake up call to really step in. This has admittedly been a lifetime project, and it will be for the rest of my life, is to learn to be in the moment,
mhm,
good or bad. And let's be honest, good or bad is what you put on it. So I look at like mistakes and different things differently now. Like, I don't look at it as like that's a total mistake and I screwed that up. And no, this is a great learning moment. I had just learned what doesn't work and why it doesn't work, and here are the consequences that go with why this
mhm.
doesn't time.
Yeah. Our biggest failures are our biggest lessons at the same time.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yep. Well, thank you for coming and sharing your story with us.
you're welcome.
I'm sure like lots of people are gonna enjoy listening to this episode and getting to know you better.
Thank you for letting me be a guest on here. And I watched a few of your podcasts, and I just appreciate what you're trying to do with and what you are doing with the pickleball community.
Thank you. We will all see you on the courts. Bye.
I
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time when a new episode drops each Saturday. If you like this episode, be sure to leave us a like, and we'll see you out on the courts. Bye.